Well, hi guys, welcome to another video. Here we have my latest acquisition from eBay. A very rare and very nice RexHora 19 jewels, 1950s. It's about 33 millimeters across the face. Now, this was being sold as non-working. But as soon as I got it, I could see it was actually ticking, but it kept stopping. So I got the back off. Now wait till you see the movement on this. It's stunning. I've took the back off already, by the way. There it is there. I think it's stainless steel. I'm not too sure. Not sure what that is. Formed icier intoxicable. Well, I've got a nickel allergy and I was wearing it yesterday. So far, no problems. So I think it's some kind of stainless steel. Anyway, back to the back of the watch. Look at that beauty. Just give me a second. And here we have a really beautiful looking movement in this copper colour. So I'm not sure what the metal is. Some kind of copper, I guess. You've got the RexHora engraved or stamped cog there. 19 jewels. Anti-magnetic. Swizz movement. A really beautiful movement. One of the best I've seen. I mean, it's got to be fairly on par with a Rolex or something like that. It's a stunning movement. Ticking away there. Really smooth. It's keeping good time. I actually took this out last night to see if it would carry on working for a long period of time, because as I said, when I purchased it, it was advertised as not working or working and stopping, something like that. I can't remember. And guess how much I paid for this? No, guess again. £3.20. Yeah, you heard it right. I paid £3.20 for this watch. The postage was more than the watch. The postage was, I think, £4.50. So, you know, we're a little bit more, but come on. That's got to be a good deal, isn't it? Even not working, I was happy with that. Now, after a little wind, and I kind of blew the watch a little bit, because sometimes you can get a little bit of dust and things like that in the movement. And I put a little bit of very fine oil. I've got some sword oil, and I just touch a little drop on top of the rubies there. And I know obviously it's meant to have a drop of oil underneath the ruby, but I put a little bit on there, and sometimes I'll wave that in front of a bit of heat, hoping that it gets thin enough that a bit may get round the back and lubricate it. I don't know if that's complete bonkers, but it seems to kind of work. Not always, but in this case, we're running nicely. So maybe that's all it took, was just to get a few microns of oil where they need to be. But obviously you don't want to drench the watch. I'm just talking, I kind of like dip one of the watch screwdrivers into the oil and just place a little drop on top, a couple of places, wipe it off, and then I might kind of waft it around like an electric fire, something like that, just to heat it up a bit. Get that oil really thin in the hope that it might get where it's needed. And as I say, in this case, it's been working all evening, all night. It lost about 5 minutes overnight. I'm sure with a bit of adjustment, it would be more accurate, but it's certainly good enough to wear on the wrist for a few hours. So let's get the back on, and I'll tell you a bit more about the watch. So we've got the back on. As I said, this is 33 millimeters wide, so it's not the largest of watches, it's not the smallest. I've seen smaller for a man's watch. Obviously the fashion was smaller back then. And this smaller watch is coming back round into fashion. The large, huge watches are kind of going out of fashion, and some people are liking the more vintage look. You know, this can look really good if you're dressing up in a suit, something like that. You want something more subtle, a bit classic. The smaller size looks good. Now, Another good thing about this watch that I was quite intrigued about is it came with this expandable strap. Really well engineered, very high quality, stainless steel, and it's called a Flexi Fix. Is that right? Or a Fixi Flex? Hang on a minute. It's got it written on the back. So I'm going to tell you how I adjusted this in a second. There we go. What is it called? A Fixo Flex. Okay, Fixo Flex. As you can see here, I've got some of it out because on my skinny 6.5 inch wrist, my left wrist is about 1/2 inch smaller than my right wrist. So it kind of fitted my right wrist okay, but on my left wrist it was too large. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't even know if you could adjust these straps. I got no clue. But I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. Let's start poking around. So by grabbing a small watch screwdriver, and what you do is you get in there and you can lever these little U-shape springy pins. There's one for each side. So if you lever one off, you can imagine you can take 1 or 2 or 3 links out, and then you can join it back together by pushing. I think you could just kind of slot it in, and then you might have to push one pin back in, push something a bit hard against it to get it to go right home. And I kind of got it right first time. I took that amount out. How many we've got there? 4 links out. And we're back in business. It's kind of the perfect size for my wrist now. I'll just show this on my wrist. Before we do that, let's just have a quick look at the dial. Now, for my £3.20, we're not, expecting perfection, are we? It's 1950s, so what are we, 70 something years, maybe 70, around that kind of area. We've got a little bit of discoloration there. Maybe it had some water ingress, something like that in the past. The hands are in nice shape. They've got a bit of a shine. Now, I haven't got to the face. I haven't taken the movement out, because to get the movement out, you're going to have to remove the crown. And I've got these watch screwdrivers, which are cheap. Got them from eBay. Focus, damn you. Yep. And even the smallest watch screwdriver, I had to sharpen up a bit. Is that the smallest one? One of them. Oh, you can see I've sharpened the end of that. And that will pretty much fit the smallest screw, the one that you have to unscrew to allow the crown to come out. But quite often the screw that fixes the crown in is even smaller than this. So I need to buy a better set of watch screwdrivers. These are cheap and nasty. The smallest one isn't small enough. I need that to be the biggest one, and I need ones that go down from that size, because you can't believe how small some of the screws in the back of this are. And I'm not into watch repairing per se, but sometimes I like to get the movement out so I can perhaps very gently clean the face or the hands, that type of thing. But with this one, I'm going to leave it be because it's not too bad. The face, its focus, it's got some patina. There is some kind of stainy discoloration or whatever going on. But it's got the these numbers. You've got the Roman numerals, and then you've got these dots for the numbers going around, and they're interesting. They're some kind of metallic kind of, I don't know what you call it, stuck on, I guess. I guess it might be like a little slither of copper, something like that. But they do reflect the light quite nicely. I've not seen that before on a watch. It's a nice quality looking indus. That's the word we're looking for, the indus. And the second hand, we've got a kind of gold looking hand, gold looking second and hour hand. The winder would have been chrome plated. So I think the case is brass, because if we look at this lug here, it's gone back to its base metal, so we've got terrible light here. It's winter, it's absolutely horrible weather. There's hardly any light. So I've got the room lights on as well. As you can see, that's worn through to the brass. I've polished this up quite a bit. So it's some kind of chrome plated brass. On the edges, now if you look, hang on, So my thumb will point at it now. This section here, along there, isn't shiny. It's like I wouldn't say coin edge, but it kind of like a very fine coin edge, perhaps. Yeah, something like that, like a very fine coin edging to the sides of the case, which is interesting. And the rest is, I think, some kind of chrome plated over brass. But it's got that classic patina, which is actually interesting in a watch. So it shows its age, but it's not destroyed. It still looks smart. And especially with this strap, which I'm sure isn't the original strap. We've got a bit of an odd lug width there. It's just under the 18. It's probably like 17 millimeter. I did try one of my 18 millimeter NATO straps. I've got like an olive green NATO strap on another watch, and I chucked that on there, and it's a little bit, it fits, but it's a little bit tight between the lugs. But actually, I thought, I really like this watch, and that's this strap that it came with. And that's what made me think, let's have a go, see if I can get these links out, all or nothing. If I break it, I'll break it. It's £3.20, I'm not going to cry too much. But managed to get them out. And we're in business. So let's stick it on the old wrist, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, focus again because the light is awful. So here we can see this expandable Fixo Flex, or whatever it's called, strap. Nice and chunky. I like it. And we're going to focus again onto the face. Yeah, it's not a bad looking watch, is it? Not bad at all from a £3.20. And it was admired by my friend yesterday. He's got a, hang on, let's hold this phone a bit better. He's got a Tudor Black Bay blue, like a blue one. So he's into his watches, and he thought it was a pretty good looking watch. I love the RexHora emblem there. RexHora, I guess, meaning king for Rex, and Hora as in watch. Anything to do with watches is Hora nautical, isn't it? So RexHora, king watch. And you can see that it's Swiss made at the bottom. The writing says Swiss made. So we've got a very nice Swiss movement watch for £3.20 from the 1950s. They're not making them anymore. Yours for, well, we'll see. Maybe next year I'll stick it back on eBay. I've kind of done my quota for this year. You're allowed to have a hobby in the UK. You can sell about £1,000 worth of stuff. Well, not about, I think that is the cut-off. Anything over that, you've got to register it as a business. And I'm nowhere near that, actually. But in turnover, yes. And once you hit the turnover 1,000, you're meant to register it as a business, even if you haven't made 1,000. But you're allowed, technically, to make £1,000 on a hobby business. So if that was selling watches or making whatever, making t-shirts, painting things, doing something arty and crafty, you can make £1,000 tax-free as a hobby. But you've got to bear in mind, as soon as the turnover hits 1,000, then you've got to register it. You won't have to pay tax unless the profit is over 1,000. So I was keeping a close eye on that, and the watches I bought and sold as a hobby are getting close to 1,000. So that's that, I think, till April next year. But I'm still buying some on eBay. If I see something like this come up, I'm going to grab it, and or either keep it for my collection or I'll clean it up and flog it on. And believe me, I'm not making much money on these. The time you think you make a few quid, but then you've got eBay fees. You've got, obviously, when you purchased it, that cost £3.20, but the postage was £4.50. Okay, so you're kind of 8-9 quid, aren't you, straight into it. So when you sell it, you've got the eBay fee as well, and if you've spent any money on the watch, if you bought a strap and that type of thing. So you've got to have quite a big margin to make anything. So it's honestly, I just quite enjoy buying an old watch, see if I can get it going, or more importantly, get it looking better. So for this one, it was quite scratched up on the crystal. I used the old trick of a little bit of whitening toothpaste on a cloth and give that a good old polish. I usually take the watch off and kind of pop the polishing cloth flat, maybe on a carpet, so you've got like a little bit of give or something like this, and then just against the cloth with the bit of toothpaste, impregnated cloth. And it's amazing, on these plastic crystals you can get a lot of scratches out very quickly, but you don't want to heat them up too much. You can actually melt the plastic if you really go at it. I did that once on one of them. I was polishing quite hard, hadn't realised it got that hot. It started to kind of melt the edge of the plastic. So then I had to polish that out, but keeping it cool at the same time. So I was kind of wetting it, polishing it, get underneath the bit where I'd kind of melted the very outer skin. So anyway, yeah, you've got to be careful with these crystals when you're polishing them. Yeah, you can give them quite a bit of pressure, not too much because they crack, and you can get quite a lot of the scratches out. You're not going to get all of them, but you go from something which was perhaps looking a bit cloudy to look through, suddenly starts to sharpen up. And sometimes that can be enough. You think, oh, the face needs cleaning, and quite often actually it's just the crystal needs a good clean. And I know you can buy cheap replacement crystals for these, but you do need the tool to be able to pop them on and off. They're all a bit different. I haven't attempted that yet, so I rather just go for polishing it up, get it looking as good as possible. So I won't buy one that's completely destroyed and cracked and whatnot too much, but I don't mind a few scratches because I know they will come up quite well. So that's quite interesting. So there we go. I'm really pleased with that. £3.20 and a bit of postage. I mean, the strap must be worth that on its own. I don't think you can get these expanding. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you can get these. I'm not sure. Got no idea. But actually, it's quite good. You'd think it would pull all my hairs, but no, it's all right. Wore that all last night and it wasn't pulling on my hairs. Just sat there quite nicely. Anyway, guys, there you go. There are some bargains to be had out there. Obviously, RexHora, don't think it's in business anymore. There's a lot of these early watch manufacturers which don't exist anymore. So they're a good entry level way of getting into vintage watches. Not everyone can afford a Tudor or a Rolex or Omega, but a lot of these early Swiss makes, they're on par quality wise with them. They're not far off it. And you can have them for a lot less money and you can still enjoy a vintage watch without having to spend hundreds of pounds or maybe thousands. Yeah, there you go. Thanks a lot. Please remember to subscribe and like and leave comments. It all helps the channel algorithm. Take care till next time.